This is Audible Grown with Paul Brunel and Stephen Carroll, the pop culture podcast covering sports, movies, and everything in between. Enjoy the show.
Welcome everybody to episode 12 of Audible Grown, the 1 year anniversary special. I am here with Paul.
Yes, and this is an exciting time because this is finally here, our 90s special. You will have enjoyed the 90s themed intro that just played. We hope you enjoyed that music. Our editor Craig did a fantastic job as always. And
Good job, Craig.
Awesome. And let's start with our date of birth, because who can do a 90s special other than people born in the 90s?
290 kids.
Yes.
Right here.
July 6, 92 is my special day.
May 25th, 1993.
Yes.
My special day.
So we got early 90s here. I know some people say you're not a true 90s kid unless you were born in the late 80s, but, you know, the fake 90s kids are the ones who were born in, like, December 99, and they're like, I'm a 90s kid. I'm like, no, you were 1 month old when the 90s are over, but that's okay. So we have a fun show for you today. If you guys enjoyed the 90s as much as we did, no matter how old you were, nostalgia is a powerful thing, and we're going to elaborate on the different things that we saw in the 90s from our perspectives. But we invite you, once we post this episode, let us know what your 90s experience was like, whether you were in your 20s or 30s, or you were younger or older.
A teenager, a kid.
Yeah,
Whatever.
absolutely. So, possibly, I would say, and we're just going to go right into it, and it's still relevant today, the most powerful aspects of the 90s was probably the emergence of different types of music, like grunge, pop punk.
Yep.
What would you say? I mean, we've talked about this band extensively,
Yes.
but I gotta ask you and give people time to think, what would you say encapsulates 90s music perfectly, or the music scene?
You want me to say the band right
Say the
now?
band. Say the band.
Green Day.
Green Day. Oh my gosh. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm going to admit this, even though this is a confession of mine. I only discovered Dookie for the first time this year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was only 7 when the 90s was over.
That's okay.
It's never too late.
I found Dookie late myself. So.
It's never too late. Welcome to Paradise is the like that's the kind of song that you listen to. You got home from school and you put your backpack down on the floor.
Like, I was only 6
yeah.
when the 90s ended. So.
Yeah, I was 7. But like, you get your backpack, you put it on the floor, you get your snack, you go in your room, you turn on your PS1, you play Crash Bandicoot, and you put Dookie on your little CD player in the background that you got at Best Buy. And you just have a good time. Wait for your mom to cook dinner, and then once dinner's over, you go back in your room, read Goosebumps, and put the music back on.
Remember CD players?
We actually
They're
sell
a thing of the past.
Well, we actually have CD players, and we sell a cassette player at Target still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we still sell that. I think that's amazing. So it's not completely dead.
Okay.
Yeah. Gosh, what else? How about what is it? Smash Mouth that did All Star.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my God, amazing.
But still, I would consider Smash Mouth a one-hit wonder.
They really are. And I think they just they're still doing music. They are a one-hit wonder though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so Green Day. Still doing music. Smash Mouth, like, not as relevant, but still doing music.
Green Day just put out an album earlier this year. So.
Yeah, the clean version. The clean title is Father of All, but the explicit title I'm not going to say here.
No.
But they're still relevant, which is awesome. They actually just played, was it late last year, they played that awesome set at the Video Game Awards. You remember that?
Yeah. You and me watched it. It was great.
It was great. And Billy Joe Armstrong is what, like late 40s, early 50s? The
Yeah.
guy's still full of energy.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. And then, of course, and we'll get into this category later, but of course, the best possible place for 90s music ever is a Tony Hawk soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. If you like 90s culture and 90s games and 90s music, you can't go wrong with Tony Hawk.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. He's, you know, still going strong, but...
And they're making a documentary about the game.
Pretending I'm a Superman, which is the Goldfinger song, which is another fantastic 90s song.
Yeah.
Excellent song. But, like, the cultural impact of the music back then is huge.
Yep.
And if I had to pick, like, another band, like, that had that impact as, like, Green Day did, you can't talk about the 90s without talking about Nirvana.
Oh, yeah. Talk about revolutionizing the grunge scene.
Yeah. Like it's interesting, right? You're coming out of the 80s, and you're coming out of this, like, hair metal
Yeah.
into more of that like grungy sound that a lot of people didn't like at first, but Nirvana was really the pioneer of that.
It was the 90s. I have a nickname for the decade of the 90s as a whole.
Ooh, what's that? I don't know. I am curious.
The Renegade decade.
The Renegade decade. That's cool. Oh, that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because it was a time where young people might have been a little rebellious, and I think the music of the 90s really spoke to that.
A lot.
So.
Yeah. Especially like that, you know, high school, college age where everyone goes to that phase where they're rebellious against their parents, and you know, I mean, how many movies feature like the character going upstairs and shutting themselves in their room and putting on music really loud and just being like, I can't hear you.
The Renegade.
But it spoke to that.
Decade.
It spoke to that. Now, personally, I never really heard Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know they've been around since the 80s, but are you familiar? Like, did they break out in the 90s?
Yeah, they came around late 80s, so they didn't really break out to like the mid 90s.
Yeah. And let us know what your 90s music scene was.
For me, it was the Foo Fighters.
I was just gonna say the Foo Fighters.
Other than Green Day, for me it was the Foo Fighters.
And we watched a concert of
Foo
theirs.
Fighters.
Yeah, we watched a concert of theirs recently, and what a show!
Yeah.
Man, like they know how to entertain.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Dave Grohl, the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, was the drummer in Nirvana.
Yeah, he was. Connection.
So.
Connection, and I loved it in the concert too when the drummer of Foo Fighters came down to do a song.
Yes.
You know, that was great. But yeah, tell us, what was the song that you would go to when you felt like you needed to express yourself? Because I think another great staple of the 90s music was you had a lot of music that was emotion based and a lot of music that allowed you to express your feelings, especially when you felt like you couldn't tell other people what you were going through. You know what I mean? One of my favorite bands, Skillet, started in 96.
Yeah.
And Skillet's a hard rock Christian band, and they're still going strong.
They're still around.
They just released their 10th album last summer, and it's just as good as ever. Like, they're consistently good.
They do the theme song for Monday Night Raw right now.
Yeah, Skillet's they've been part of wrestling for a while, which is awesome. But they're fantastic. And their first album, I remember in middle school, my cousin pulled the album out of her backpack and showed everyone the first Skillet album, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And she's like, I'm a Panhead. And a Panhead, if you don't know, Skillet is the official Skillet fan club. If you're a Skillet fan, you call yourself a Panhead. Because it's like an actual skillet.
I like it.
So I am a proud panhead, yes. Although I've never gotten to see them live. Have you gotten to see any like 90s icons live? You probably have.
I never have
No.
seen 90s band live. I came close to seeing Green Day once.
Close, I know.
But
I
that
know.
didn't happen.
I know. How about Rage Against the Machine?
They're
huge.
I love them, but you want to talk about the Renegade decade? Look no further than Rage Against the Machine.
They're a very like Rage Against them, like the title in and of itself, and they're so good. They were gonna tour in May, and then obviously COVID happened.
It was only in California.
No, they were coming to Boston.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, my brother was like really excited to go.
Oh yeah, right.
And Zach De La Rocca was posting how he was working out and getting ready, and this is the first time they were touring since like, oh my god, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their last concert was like 2011 or something like that. But they were huge, and I'm gonna say this right now, and I'm not gonna be ashamed. When I was growing up, one of my favorite 90s bands was the Backstreet Boys. I loved them.
I was right there with them.
I think I was the only guy. I was the only boy in school who loved the Backstreet Boys, but I didn't care. I used to sing until
only we knew each other.
Yeah, seriously. Yep. If like I had this fake microphone that I used to sing into when I was a kid, and I used to put their CD into my CD player.
We did too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fake microphone, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, it's so fun, and they're still around too. But like their music, I don't know what it was that resonated with me, but it was so catchy.
That I want it that way.
Oh, so good! I love it.
Probably more than I would like to admit.
Oh, I loved it. And they weren't the pioneers. The pioneers really were in the 80s. New Kids on the Block, Boys to Men.
Yeah.
But they came along in the 90s and kind of like established the 90s boy band sound with NSYNC. Yeah. NSYNC was like kind of like their
I was
their opposite.
Always a Backstreet Boys guy.
Yeah, I never really listened to NSYNC too much, although Justin Timberlake turns out to be a pretty awesome guy.
And Joey Fatone.
Joey Fatone! He was on Impractical Jokers selling hot dogs.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a restaurant or something? Or is it Joey McIntyre from... No. Doesn't Joey Fatone have a restaurant? I thought Joey Fatone had a restaurant. Am I crazy?
I know the Wahlbergs have one.
The Wahlbergs have one.
But
And
I don't know
Donnie's on New Kids.
I don't know about...
I don't know. Maybe not Joey Fatone. I don't know. I just remember like he was selling hot dogs in a restaurant on Impractical Jokers. I'm like, from NSYNC to hot dog seller, Joey Fatone.
Yeah.
That name makes me laugh. I don't know what it is.
What?
Joey Fatone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's funny. Yeah, the 90s were like 90s music was the soundtrack to a rebellious life, but not too rebellious.
Yeah.
Not like going out there and causing anarchy, more like refusing to eat your vegetables, so you can't have dessert kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't tell me what to do. How about what was it? I can't remember. You have to fight for your right to party.
Oh,
are they 90s or
Beastie Boys.
Am I going to sound like a total idiot, or are they earlier?
I believe they are.
I gotta check 90s. This. People are gonna be like, you don't know your music. Well,
we don't know everything.
If you live in Philly, you don't know your sports team, so.
And you don't know how to do cheesesteak in Philly.
That's horrible. Oh my god, no, the Beastie Boys were formed in 78. I was way off.
But they would have fit into
the 90s. Yeah, they're kind of like that.
No problem.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh, that's hilarious.
One of my favorites, by the way, Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys, yeah. Well, let's transition. Okay. Let's transition to something that was a big part of both of our lives. But one fateful day in December of 1994, when we were 1 and 2 in Japan, the PlayStation launched.
Yeah.
And that was over 21 years ago. No, wait.
Damn.
26 years ago, not 21.
Damn.
It'll be 26 years this December.
Wow.
Yep, and we're getting ready for PS5. But 90s video gaming, like video games have been around since really the early 60s with Space War. But the 70s and the 80s were huge, but the 90s is when the 3D video gaming revolution started.
With
And like
Nintendo and
N64, PlayStation
PlayStation.
really started like a cultural revolution. I mean, like if I say, let's see if we're on the same wavelength. A world famous PlayStation mascot from the 90s. Which character would you think of? Which video game series? Sonic. No, Sonic is Sega.
Oh, my bad.
But who would you say? Huge PlayStation franchise.
Crash.
Yes, Crash Bandicoot.
Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot was huge. I remember going to my cousin's house and going up to their room in the attic and setting up the PS1 and playing Crash Bandicoot.
Yep.
And if you want to feel old, they've already remastered those games to the PS4.
And those games remastered are just as fun as they were back then.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No. Like they don't get old. They're so famous. Like and I should point out that they were those developed by Naughty Dog. Crash.
Naughty Dog. Yeah.
And in Uncharted 4, which came out 4 years ago, you start the game off in your house with your wife. You're Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
And you actually get to play. He sits down and plays Crash Bandicoot
in
the game, and you get to play Crash in the game within the game.
Nice.
Which is super cool.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, and then how about the little purple dragon that everyone loves? Do you remember him?
Spyro.
Spyro. Yes, Spyro was my PlayStation game.
Yeah.
Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Stuart Copeland playing drums. If you don't know who Stuart Copeland is, go look up the first two Spyro, or the first three soundtracks. Stuart Copeland is a drummer, and he did the soundtracks for Spyro. And the atmosphere of the game and the music will forever be embedded in my memory. And I also grew up with Spider-Man and this is kind of cheating because Spider-Man came out in 2000, but it's on a 90s console, so I'll give it a pass.
Okay.
But PlayStation was huge in my life, and it still is because we're getting the PS5 soon.
Yeah.
But if you had to talk about your 90s gaming experience, your staple was the sports icons.
Yeah. Like, my favorite 90s game came on the N64, and it came at the end of the 90s, but it was Blades of Steel 99.
Hey, if it's the 90s, it's the 90s.
God,
and you still have the original copy downstairs.
I love that game, and all these years later, still have the original cartridge downstairs.
Still have the original cartridge, yeah, which is, and it's in pretty good condition, too. I bet if we found a Nintendo, it would play.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else for you?
It's hard for me with video games because I didn't really start playing till the 2000s, so...
Like that tail end.
Like the tail
Like kind of coming out of an era.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's a lot tougher for me.
Yeah. What would you say is the most iconic game system of the 90s? I feel like you could seriously argue PlayStation, but N64 I think is also
the
valid.
N64 was the first gaming system I had, so as much of a PlayStation guy as I am, I gotta give the nod to the N64.
Yeah, well, I should do that too because my mom got an NES, which was the precursor to the 64, in the 80s, and passed that system down to me when I was a kid.
Yep.
And I grew up in we didn't get a PlayStation 1 until much later. But I grew up with an original NES, and the games were Duck Hunt, Jaws the Revenge, Dr. Mario, and the original Legend of Zelda.
Wow.
And I remember playing those in my bedroom when I was really young. I remember the TV was right up against the bed, and I'm playing Dr. Mario, and it's on an original NES, and that was before the PlayStation, so I got my experience with Nintendo.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, overall, it's tough. Overall, I'd probably have to get a slight edge, like, as far as, like, cultural impact to Nintendo. Maybe just a little bit. Does that make sense?
Because our parents still think all video games begin and end with Nintendo.
Oh, you want the new Nintendo 5? No, Mom, it's the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, to be fair, Nintendo's still making consoles, but yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to know the staple, is they say Pokemon, and they say Nintendo is every console ever. And they say that all pop punk music is like
and no,
devil music.
Just because I have my phone out doesn't mean I'm playing Pokemon Go. Okay.
Is that? I guess it's still relevant. I haven't really played it, but again, like speaking of the '90s, Pokemon. I had a Game Boy Color. I got it in '98. And I remember coming home once, and my aunt had got me a birthday gift, and it was Pokemon Yellow, special Pokemon Special Pikachu edition, on a red Game Boy Color. And that was my second Nintendo, and my first Nintendo handheld experience was playing Pokemon.
I don't
Pokemon
have
Yellow.
any handheld experience.
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's like you could say you're not missing too much, but because you're still, really it's the portability of it. It's the ability to take it with you.
Yeah.
And then of course we can't talk about the '90s video games without talking about GoldenEye.
Oh.
1997. One of the most. I'd probably say GoldenEye is the most iconic '90s video game ever. Super Mario 64, Doom came out in '93, Half-Life, Chrono Trigger, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario Kart, Duke Nukem, Metal Gear Solid, Donkey Kong.
I remember Mario Kart.
Yeah, Super Metroid, and of course, and I'm gonna say this is the best possible way for the '90s to end is Tony Hawk, Pro Skater.
Yeah, because we know skateboarding was all the rage back in the '90s.
And again, kind of spoke to that rebellious culture, just the very idea of like Tony Hawk, like you first start off the game skating in an abandoned warehouse, is kind of like a picture, a mild, subtle picture of rebellion. In other words, you're taking what was used corporately and you're saying that's my territory now. And it's like kind of a statement of that era of, like you said, the renegade decade, like taking over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge.
And I will say I did get a chance to read Tony Hawk's autobiography, and if you're into that stuff and love 90s culture and love Tony Hawk, I highly suggest you give it a read because it's really great.
Oh yeah. When did that come out? Is that more recent?
No, I think he wrote it a while ago because I read it a few years ago. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And he's still like I mean, we got the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake coming out on September 4th. Yeah. And we'll talk about kind of nostalgia a little later on, but nostalgia is so big that these games are getting remade. Spyro Trilogy got remade. Crash Bandicoot Trilogy got remade. Tony Hawk's getting remade. You know what I mean? So nostalgia makes money.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that later, like big time. And then ending the '90s, so just barely into the 2000s was PS2. PlayStation ruled that decade, 94 to 99.
Yep.
was huge.
Like the back half of
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah. And they kind of like pioneered a new style of video game.
Yeah.
And what it really did, like, is it created a competitive marketplace where only two major companies are really around from the 90s still, Nintendo and Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't hear about Sega Genesis or the Saturn or any of those Atari or anything like that. You know, like, it got so competitive that it's narrowed down. And then, of course, what's an Audible Grown episode without making fun of the fact that Xbox didn't come out till 2001?
Oh, wait, the party.
I'm sorry. You're just... We love Xbox. They're just a little aggravated that we're getting Spider-Man on PS4 and they're not.
Not our fault. You make it so you're easy pickings.
No, seriously. If you love Xbox and listen to this podcast, please stop immediately. No, I'm only kidding. You're welcome. We're just it's all in good fun.
Gamers at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're just gamers with good taste. No. I'm terrible. I'm just kidding. We rag on Xbox, but if you've owned an Xbox your whole life, you're going to rag on PlayStation. It doesn't matter. Whatever. We can take it.
I will admit, I had the original Xbox back in the day.
Yeah, and I played Xbox. I played Xbox a lot. But Xbox missed the 90s, so we're not going to talk about them because they're not 90s. Yeah, it's great. 80s nostalgia was huge. I feel like movie-wise, but 90s nostalgia is more focused on like games and music, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like that feeling you got, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, I still get that feeling listening to Green Day, or randomly I'll put on the Tony Hawk
soundtrack. Yeah.
And it will
Thanks, Spotify.
Take me back to that time.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, speaking of like the 90s, that decade, is when you grow up in the 90s, they never seem like they're that far away. But when you realize that the end of the 90s, and I'm saying the end, not the beginning, the end of the 90s was over 2 decades ago. And you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like SpongeBob just premiered, but it premiered 21 years ago.
We're seeing here in 2020, and the 90s ended 20 plus years ago now.
Yeah. You want to feel old? And anyone listening, do you want to feel old? Here's how you feel old. Someone who was born on the day SpongeBob premiered is old enough to drink now.
Damn. Okay.
I'm like, what? I was 7 when SpongeBob came out on Nickelodeon.
I was 6 when that came out.
Oh my goodness. And it's still going strong. Like Steven Hillenburg did something amazing, but SpongeBob premiering was cool. And I know we're kind of transitioning out of video games, but they, like, Nicktoons was, and we'll talk more about Nicktoons a little later on.
Yeah.
But they really hit a jackpot with ending the decade on a high note with that show.
Oh. Yeah, they hit such a jackpot with that show. It's still on the air 21 years later.
21 years later, yeah. But let's save the 90s Nickelodeon for a little later on. I do got to ask you, Steve, in the spirit of the 90s, do you remember the Scholastic Book Fair at your school?
Yes.
Like, yeah. I don't think anybody can be a 90s kid and not have the most exciting day of their school year be the Scholastic Book Fair. Yes.
I wasn't even a big reader at the time, and even I was excited.
I remember the catalog would come in the mail, the Scholastic catalog, and my mom would give me a pencil, and I would sit there in the living room and circle all of the books that I wanted my mom to buy me.
Yeah.
And I would give it to her, and you would order it over the phone, because in the 90s and early 2000s, this was kind of like just getting around the time when you could do it online. Again, you want to feel old.
The internet.
We're older than Google. Just want to say that.
Damn.
I'm done. I'm making half our listeners cry.
I really feel old. And I'm only 27.
Yeah, 28. Yeah, I'm making half our listeners cry, which is like 2 people. But no, I'm only kidding. I'm just joking. We love you all. But yeah, so I would give her the paper, and the books would arrive at the school, and I'd walk into the gym, and it would be all like the stanchions and all of the books and the music and all that stuff and the little tools and things, and I would go pick up my books, and she would give me like a little bit of money, and I'd get other books that I wanted. And every year I would buy my dad a little tool set. And now I realize that's all I ever bought him was a tool set. And he was like, "Thanks, a tool set." I don't know why I sounded like a woman. "Thanks, a tool set. Thanks, son." Even though he got it every year and probably never... No, he probably used them. My dad would have used them. My dad would have used them, you know. Because you remember when you're giving gifts to your parents as a kid and you're like, "Mommy, I got you a flower." And it's like covered in bugs. "Thanks, honey."
You almost don't like care what the gift is. As long as you get them a gift.
90's Book Fair. Crappy gifts for your parents since the 1990s.
Yeah.
Yep. Like those little rubber colored braid things that you would get. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Napoleon Dynamite. But do you have like any books that made a big impact on you, or comic books or anything?
I didn't really get into like comic books too much later. I just remember as a kid reading a bunch of Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss is classic.
Like 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. That was my favorite.
Yeah, Green Eggs and Ham.
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, all the places you'll go. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's the books I will always remember from the 90's, the Dr. Seuss books.
And that speaks to the relevance of Dr. Seuss, because those books came out in the 50s. So we're reading them at 40 years old and not realizing, you know, they're 40 years old at that point.
Yeah.
I gotta say, for me, when it comes to reading, and I'm a huge reader. Right now I'm reading through The Lord of the Rings, but when it comes to reading, for me in the 90's, it was all about R.L. Stine. It was all about Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if you are a 90's kid, you remember going to the book fair, picking up a new Goosebumps book, and R.L. Stine was like the horror exposure you got as a kid that was scary but not too scary. And Goosebumps was huge. The cover art, the raised bumps on the logo on the front of the book, I remember liking the texture of that. Like those little things, like you ever get those little memories that you get attached to?
Yeah.
Like the smell or feel of something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the menu music for Blades of Steel.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I still think about that. And I'll hear it every once in a while on like a YouTube video and just smile like I just been playing the game.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be great.
Even though I haven't played that in like almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show like the power of like how that stuff can leave such a lasting impression. But Goosebumps was huge. We go to remember Blockbuster Video.
Oh, good old
Blockbuster. Major Video, Hollywood Video. Well, we go to Blockbuster Video after school. It's like just getting dark, and it's a summer night, and we take my dad's Buick, and we go pick out Goosebumps and the big green and purple VHS tape. And I'm just realizing now, you might have some listeners who don't know what VHS tapes were, but that was before DVD.
Yes.
It was a VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K.
You would literally have an actual tape that you would have to stick into a VCR.
Yep.
And rewind it and then play it.
Yep.
And then
This is back before, like, and this goes obviously into the 80s and 70s too, but there was no DVRs back in the 90s, so if you wanted to catch a show again, you have to record it on a VHS tape.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember my uncle recorded the Twilight Zone marathon, and we still have that tape. But we'd go into Blockbuster and get Goosebumps on tape, and, like, that was a huge thing.
I remember, like, my dad would take me to Blockbuster once a week, and I would rent, like, a video game for, like, 5 days.
Yeah, you got, like, I think it was a little shorter for games, yeah.
And then bring it back, and then the next week get another game, like,
Yep.
just every Friday, I want to say, just knowing the week was ending and I was going to Blockbuster. It was like the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, good times. Do you remember the smell when you walked in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that new
Yeah.
store smell.
Yeah, I remember, like, on the right-hand side, they have this giant book of, like, a giant movie catalog, and wandering the aisles where the floors were slightly uneven, the carpets were just a little bit dirty, but not gross.
Yep.
You know, looking at, son, those are the R-rated movies. You're not 18 yet. Come look at these. You're wandering around, and, gosh, like, Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and HBO Max and all that stuff is good. But it's interesting growing up in an era where you couldn't stream things on TV. You had to go to a physical location. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel like taking the work out of this stuff takes away the specialness of, like, actually going out and having to do these things?
Yes.
You know?
Because that's how when I grew up, we would have to physically go to the store or wherever to pick something up.
Yeah.
And I just think you can get things so easy now that people rather just buy stuff online rather than get that full
experience. I know. And again, like, going back to, like, VCRs, nowadays you can just press a button on your TV and record, but you had to make sure if you want to record something, you got to go to the store, you got to buy a set of blank VCR tapes, you got to bring them home, you got to buy labels, you got to record what you wanted, you got to make sure you put the label on and write down on it with Sharpie, and make sure that you know what tape you're playing, and then you had an entertainment center where you would put all your VCR tapes underneath.
Process.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah, like nowadays you can listen to just music on your phone, but in the 90s and even in the 80s, you had a Walkman or a disc player that you'd put in your pocket and put the headphones on.
And you actually...
Yeah, exchange when your album was over, it doesn't go right to the next one. You got to take it out, put it back in the case, put the CD in the, those little things.
You actually had to take care of a CD, and if you damaged the CD, guess what? You weren't getting another one for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, your parents aren't gonna be like, "Oh, you broke the CD already. I'm not gonna take you out and get a new one."
Yeah.
Prove to me you can take care. That's the age-old thing. Prove to me you can take care of your belongings.
Yeah.
Auntie Rita got that for you, and you broke it after a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like something special about going out and doing that stuff. Than just doing it all from home.
I know you still do that with video games, but you buy the physical video game.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, because you still like that feeling of holding it in your hand.
Yep, we're seeing a world that's going increasingly more digital. This is the first time ever in the history, or at least if I can remember correctly, where a console is coming out that is entirely digital. Xbox did it, and now PlayStation's doing it. But there's something special for me about, like, The smell, that might be weird, but the smell of a game case when you open it, taking the plastic off.
I totally agree.
Yeah, looking at the box art, reading the instruction manual, like that stuff you don't get when you buy digitally. But I got two games recently, Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Odyssey digitally, and it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more like, you're gonna get the digital PlayStation, so anyone can do it really, but it's more of like the more of this generation that wants to go digital.
I just want the digital one, so I don't have to worry about taking care of CDs and having games not work.
Oh yeah, speaking of games not working, I remember disc read error on the PlayStation when a disc wouldn't work. I'm like, no!
Or the Nintendo cartridge
blowing into the bottom of it.
You would have to blow it.
Yep, and then try it again, hit the reset button, plug it in, unplug it, Oh, that was so fun. Man. Do you have like any favorite stores that you went to as a kid that in the 90s that kind of like for me it was Blockbuster.
For me, Blockbuster, Toys
R Us. That's perfect.
A big one.
They're not around anymore.
Yeah.
They're online, I guess, and they said some stores might open again, but they're bankrupt. But I remember Toys R Us, huge in the 90s.
EB Games.
Yeah, EB Games.
Back when there was more than one place to get video games.
And now it's just GameStop, and they're not, well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to get in trouble. But do you remember, what was was there a KB Toys? Do you remember KB Toys?
Yeah, vaguely.
I got to, check this, but retail is going more online, but those are the stores that we can't go to anymore that we remember, some kid might be like, what's EB Games? I thought it was GameStop. Well, that was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, KB Toys.
Even
oh my god.
Stores like Kmart and Circuit City, places like that.
Yeah. Circuit City, yep, Kmart, huge, dying reach.
Radio Shack.
Yeah, they just keep coming. Circuit City went defunct, yep, Radio Shack. My god, I remember Radio Shack. And Radio Shack, again, was a great place to get VCR tapes and, Walkmans.
Yeah,
Do you remember going into all of those places?
Yeah.
I remember.
Yep. I remember it real well.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Those buildings either torn down or transitioned, and I remember. Do you remember Rhode Island Mall in Warwick? Do you remember going in there? They're closed down.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to this, man, you might remember those malls that you would go into in the 90s that are either dead malls now or defunct or shut down. But I think we're kind of lucky to have that tail end of the major retail era before things moved online, where you didn't just go shopping once. You if you needed a few things, you go to a bunch of different stores.
Right.
And
you used to have to look for things if you went to a store and they didn't have whatever you were looking for, then you would have to physically go into other stores and search for whatever it was that you were looking for.
yeah.
It's not like now where you can just go online and just type in whatever you're looking for and it will give you a list of places you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You go up to the, the big thing was going into the mall, looking at the directory. Okay, so the Macy's on the first floor, and then I got to go to Spencer's, and then I got to go to I don't know, KB Toys, and then I got to go Radio Shack, and now it's I'm just going to go to Amazon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh boy. Well, we hope you've been enjoying this 90s special. We're going to take a quick break for a word from one of our guests. We're going to have a little bit of some new things here.
That you heard of.
You've heard them before.
You heard from in the past.
But we'll be right back real soon, guys, for part 2 of our 90s special. We have a lot more fun things to talk about.
Yes.
Sit tight. We'll be back in a minute.
Hello, this is Isaac Brunel, and you are listening to the Audible Grown Podcast.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of our 90s special. We hope you enjoyed that little blip there from Isaac, who's been on our show.
A cameo,
Yeah.
so to speak, on
Yeah.
the 90s special.
Yep, awesome. We're going to start getting more of that stuff in there, and we have some ideas of things we could do.
Maybe we can fit a few fake ads.
Yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff. We'll make some stuff up. It'll be awesome. But welcome back to part 2. We talked a lot about retail and video games and music. But let's talk about sports. And why don't you just go and start off with whatever you want? Like, what was 90s sports like for you?
90s, if you talk baseball, it was the Yankees basically dominating that decade.
Yeah.
If you talk NBA, it was the Michael Jordan era of the Chicago Bulls. If you talk football, it was either the Green Bay Packers or the Dallas Cowboys. And if you talk hockey, it was anyone from the Oilers to the Devils to the Stars.
Wow. Do you feel like as far as like local sports teams, if you're listening locally, do you feel like what would you say? Which Boston team do you think was most prolific in the 90s?
Most prolific, I'd probably either say Bruins or Red Sox.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, Bruins or Red Sox, yeah.
I mean, the Patriots were coming around towards the end, the middle towards the end of the 90s, but I wouldn't say they were at that stage yet. So
Yeah, like kind of. I mean, it's obviously pre-Brady, but like for me personally, and I wasn't big at sports in the 90s, but if I have to say, like if I'm thinking 90s sports, Michael Jordan's the only name that comes to my mind. Like he dominated 90s sports in such a big way. Like for instance, he played for the Bulls, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So Chicago Bulls won in 91, 92, 93, 96, 97,
champion.
and 98.
Yep.
The Chicago Bulls. Huge.
Yep.
Wow. Sports, football, you got the 49ers, the Giants, the Redskins. Like a lot of these teams that don't really win anymore. The Cowboys won twice in a row. The 49ers won again. The Cowboys won again. The Packers again. The Broncos twice in a row.
Yep. You had a lot of parody.
What was that parody?
Like a lot of different teams winning.
Oh yeah, like
That's
variety. Yeah.
that's
Parody.
what
Yeah.
parody
Parody. Yeah. I think you said parody. Yeah. No, you did. Yeah, and then like MLB, Yankees in 99, Yankees in 98, Yankees in 96. And then in 94 they didn't play baseball because of the baseball strike.
Yeah.
You know, Cincinnati Reds, Minnesota Twins, the Blue Jays twice in a row, the Braves, the Marlins. Do you remember much of like? Do you remember much of Bruins in the 90s? Like anything that sticks out to you?
Two players in particular.
Yeah.
And one of them is still playing to this day. In the NHL.
Is that the Daniel Chara?
No.
No.
Joe Thornton.
He's still playing?
Yep.
How old is he now?
In the 40s.
Wow. Who's the other player?
And Sergei Samsonov, but he's not playing anymore.
Yeah.
But at least Joe Biden, by some miracle, is still playing.
What team is he on?
Last I heard he was on the San Jose Sharks.
Wow. Talk about
only
a
been
career.
on 2 teams his entire career.
The Sharks, yeah, and who else?
The Bruins.
Oh, he was with us. Okay, wow.
So
Wow. I remember, I don't know, gosh, I think, because I started at the Dunkin' Donut Center, or if you're listening, just any
the
stadium. The Civic Center back then.
Then,
But I remember when I was little seeing the Harlem Globetrotters, which is more like a show, not like a really official.
basketball.
Yeah, but growing up for me, I wasn't really into sports too much as a kid, like I am now. But I remember going to my cousin's house, the same one where we played Crash, and his library was just sports games. You know, like the thin little CD case that PlayStation 1 had.
My whole library.
Yeah. Is there anything, like, personally for you is there any aspect of 90s sports that you think we're lacking now, like any magic, or do you think we're pretty good?
And me saying this is not gonna sound the best, but I get why it's not the same, because the concussion issue.
Right.
But sports were a lot more aggressive and violent back in the 90s.
Before, like, all these safety protocols.
Before all the safety protocols. So I don't want to say that's a criticism, because I totally get it with all the safety concerns now, but it's missing a lot of that aggressiveness.
Yeah, wow. And that's something I never really saw, but it must have been something, like, I can't imagine seeing hockey fights as a kid. It must have been something.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, like, it's a good thing those safety measures are in place. Like, they're just starting to discover now the effect concussions have on players.
That's
but
why
I understand. But I get what you're saying.
I don't want to criticize it.
Yeah.
But I completely understand why they do it. I completely agree with all the safety measures that they're taking.
Yeah, those extra things. Yeah, really cool. You know, sports has brought everyone together for a very long time.
And another thing that I wish they would bring back, not bring back, but I feel like the philosophy with sports in the 90s was different, in the sense of this generation's athletes are money driven, whereas
that's a fair point.
The athletes back then, they liked the money, but they were mostly playing for the love of whatever sport they were playing. Like,
do you know how much a baseball player made back then, as opposed to now?
No, but it's drastically more now.
Yeah, and I guess this is kind of sports related, but what do you think of WWE and kind of pro wrestling back in that era? Looking back and watching those older.
It was definitely more hard.
Yeah, I miss that. The Attitude Era, that was 90s.
Yeah,
that was like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mick Foley. Like, I feel like there's like that grit that WWE had back in the 90s that is not there anymore.
If there was a visual representation of the Renegade decade, it was pro wrestling back in the 90s.
Yep, and if you had to get an exact picture, it would probably be Stone Cold, like, chugging 2 beers at once or something.
Or The Rock just run wild on people.
Man. Like, yeah, I feel like, and I get it, like, Vince is trying to appeal to
Or
the younger audience, but there was something special about that grittiness, that fake blood, that, like... Because I remember seeing WWE lunch boxes and things when I was a kid growing up in elementary, and it was always had, like, that grit, that dirt to it. The WWF logo, how it looked a little like, rough around the edges.
Yeah, like...
Like, the sets, the cool, awesome SmackDown sets.
The way I like to put it, wrestling was the punk rock of entertainment.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I wouldn't put it any other way.
Like, that's what it was.
That's excellent. Let's talk about transitioning into another thing that would be on TV, but you can't talk about the 90s without 90s Nickelodeon.
Oh, no way. That's what me and you grew up on.
Oh my God. Nick. Remember hearing that? Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Oh, all weekend.
Yeah.
Nothing like waking up on a Saturday morning, with your glass of orange juice and your whatever breakfast you had, and pulling out the little dinner tray in the living room and putting Nickelodeon on, and the Rugrats theme song comes on, and you're still in your pajamas. You get nothing to do that day.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Responsibilities. Why? No, I'm only kidding. But 90s Nickelodeon was, like, one of the most, for me, nostalgic things. Period. Period.
My whole child.
I don't know what the secret was, but 90s Nickelodeon was so special, so fun. Rugrats, Cat Dog, Salute Your Shorts, Rocket Power, Clarissa Tells It All, Dare, Double Dare. Yep. Then there was Double Dare 2000. Figure It Out with Summer Sanders from the Olympics.
Summer Sanders. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple. All that. Guts. Keenan and Kel. Amanda Show. 90s Nickelodeon, man.
Yeah. SpongeBob at the end.
At the end, exactly.
Did we say Cat Dog?
Yeah, Cat Dog, yep. Are You Afraid of the Dark was another big one that I absolutely loved.
Yep.
But, like, 90s... When you came home from school, if you weren't playing video games, you're watching 90s Nick. On the weekends in the morning, you're watching 90s Nick.
We forgot one.
What's that?
Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold! How could I forget my all-time favorite Nicktoon other than SpongeBob and the Rugrats?
And Wild
Nicktoons, Wild Thornberries. Yeah, they just keep coming. Man, I love Nickelodeon. 90s Nick. It was so good.
And
I don't know how it is now because I haven't watched Nickelodeon in quite some time.
I
But
thought of one more that was really underrated.
yeah,
As Told by Ginger.
As Told by Ginger's huge. Yep. But like that was your thing. Like I said, if you weren't playing video games, you're watching Nick. If you're sick and you're huddled up under blankets with a fever and you have your ginger ale and saltines, what's on TV to soothe you? Nickelodeon. You know what I mean? If you're watching TV at night before bed, what's on your TV? Nickelodeon. If you're growing up really young, what's on your TV? Nick Jr., Blue's Clues, and all that stuff.
Oh, Blue's.
I loved Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
And Blue's Clues is just got revived again, like early this year or last year. And I don't know how well they're doing, but if they're back, it's a testimony to how well that show is.
Even the shows like on PBS, like
just the 90s TV.
Zoom and
Yep, Out of the Box.
Out of the Box.
Out of the Box. Yep.
Read Between the Lions.
Yeah, actually, you know what's crazy? Between the Lions came out in 2000. I remember it as 90s. I thought I could have sworn.
90s,
I do too. And that's like the criticism that people have for kids who were born later in the 90s is that most of their memories are 2000s, but it feels like the 90s. So like for us, it's that narrow period of like 6 or 7 years, but that's still plenty of time to remember like what 90s Nick was.
Yeah.
You know, the commercials, the toy commercials.
Oh,
the style of 90s commercials back then.
Constant toy
Yeah.
commercial.
The style of TV commercials back then was like a lot more warmer and rustic,
Yeah.
and like advertise the product a lot more. Nowadays it's more like comedy and off the wall stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing you see commercials and you're like, what's this a commercial for? And you don't find out till the very end, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is a commercial for shampoo? Why is this guy eating nachos on his couch at 2 a.m. and then it says suave? Like it had nothing to do with it. You know what? I'm just throwing an example out there, but back then, like commercials were to the point. You know?
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, even the commercials I feel like were just a bigger part, like the commercial breaks. You know? We'll be back right after these messages. You remember hearing that?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. If you had to pick one 90s Nick show besides SpongeBob to say that defined your childhood, what would you say? Like in the 90s?
Well, the thing. Well, two things I remember: Rocket Power and on the Amanda Show. They used to do those fake commercials.
Yes, I love it.
I used to love those.
It's pajamas.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the something, you know, whatever. It's the, you know, Giuseppe Brothers. They got eggs.
Yeah.
You know. The girls' room.
Drake and Josh before they got
big. Yeah, they got their own show. Yeah. Wow. What was the majority of your television watching back then? Do you remember?
In the 90s?
Yeah.
It was either sports or Nickelodeon.
That's it.
That was it.
For me, it was Nickelodeon. My dad used to love the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
I remember when their logo was the planet Saturn instead of whatever it is now. PBS was huge. Animal Planet was huge. Yeah, Animal Channel. Animal Planet, sorry. The History Channel was a big one. Yeah, a lot of memories there at TV.
Yeah.
You know, special stuff. I feel like, you know, cable's kind of dying out. It's more moving to streaming.
Right.
But I remember before you could press guide and see what's coming on. You had to have the TV guide, the actual book, to see your listings.
Or they had that actual channel.
Yes, that's right.
You would have
to
go to.
I love that channel.
Just to see what was on.
I love that channel. And that was showing all the pay-per-view previews for like movies and stuff that were available to rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Channel 3. And again, if you're a 90s kid, what channel did you have to go through for your video game input? Channel 3. It was always Channel 3.
Yep. It still is.
Is it still Channel 3?
I believe.
Now it's just HDMI. 90s TV, though, huge. Huge. And I think in some regards, in some respects, a lot better than the TV we have today, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll always be partial.
We'll always be partial to 90s television. How about, here's a good one. Let's do this. We're going to play a little game. This is the 90s nostalgia trivia questions.
Okay.
I don't know how good I'm going to do with these.
Me either, but we'll just wing it. So
40 questions you'll only get right if you grew up in this time. Oh, boy.
wanna wing a few of them?
I don't know if I'm going to do good at any of these. Well, okay. What was the name of the school where Saved by the Bell was set? Do you know that one? Oh boy. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue.
I feel like I should know, but I don't.
Okay, how about this? We'll do this. We won't read all of these. There's 90 amazing facts about the 90s. We'll pick through some of these. Oh my god, do you remember Furbies? That was the first one.
Vaguely.
Do you remember Furbies? Furbies were like those pets, those little Furby, like furry pets that you could take care of.
I'm thinking of Chia.
Chia pets were huge.
Yeah.
Chia pets, and then Tamagotchi. Remember Tamagotchi?
Yeah.
How about this one? Jennifer Aniston hated her friend's haircut. I didn't know that.
I could see why.
Wow. How about AOL Instant Messenger? Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger, yep.
Remember AIM?
AIM was huge. The 90s book, Who Moved My Cheese, was big everywhere. The 98 self-help book even sold a couple million copies where it inspired books like Whose Cheese Should I Move and No One Can Move My Cheese.
Okay,
This is especially weird when you consider that cheese does not really have a place in Chinese cuisine. Okay. Jackie Chan voiced the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
No
I
way.
did not know that.
No way.
The Chinese release. Okay, I was like, I had no idea.
I was gonna say.
Doc Martens, the shoes, were huge in the 90s. Yep. Slap bracelets that you put on your wrist and they slap in place.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Billy Crystal had a chance to be a voice actor in Toy Story. He was offered the role of Buzz Lightyear. Did you know that? He turned it down and later starred in another famous Pixar movie as Mike Wazowski.
Yep.
That's him right there.
Monsters Inc.
Yep, wow. Let's see. The voice behind your mail unveiled. You remember You've Got Mail?
Yeah.
That actually wasn't bad. I'm proud of myself for that one.
Yeah.
Elwood Edwards recorded the saying in his living room on a cassette deck and got into AOL that way. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
How about the Friends theme from the Rembrandts, I'll Be There For You? Number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Yep.
All I remember is
Yeah. That clap.
the sound of the 90s. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yep. Here's a weird one. NSYNC owes their name to Justin Timberlake's mom.
What?
Justin Timberlake's mom came up with the name NSYNC, which was the last letter of each band member's name.
Oh, that's unique.
Interesting. The Backstreet Boys owe their name to, well, a flea market. The Backstreet Market.
Backstreet Market.
Wow.
I actually knew that. And
You knew that? That's cool.
and you know where I learned that?
Where's that?
A little Nickelodeon show called Double Dare 2000.
Trivia!
Thank you.
I love it. That's fantastic. Nintendo's Game Boy slipped the bonds of Earth. In '93, a Russian astronaut brought his Game Boy to space. He was allowed to choose one game, and he picked Tetris.
Nice.
Dun, 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 dun. Apparently, Power Rangers were banned in New Zealand.
Wow. Oh,
The show itself was banned for violence until 2011.
in New... What?
Yes, in New Zealand. You couldn't watch it. Yep.
Till 2011?
My God. Ice Ice Baby was originally a B-side, and the song only caught on when a radio DJ in Georgia played it by accident on the radio.
Really?
Get a load of that. Wow. There was originally an entire song in The Lion King about eating bugs, but they took that out. I didn't know that.
Thank God.
It probably would have happened in that scene where they're looking under the leaf and all the bugs are there.
I declare.
Older Simba was voiced by Matthew Broderick, who starred as Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Great movie.
Wow.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas won the first ever Nickelodeon Kids Lifetime Achievement Award for his work on Home Improvement.
Oh! Home Improvement.
In 1995, this famous website called Auction Web grew up to be called eBay. It was called Auction Web. Wow.
Nice.
Here we go. Here's one that we talked about before. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA titles in 8 years and got rich off of Nike. Remember Nike Air Jordans? Everyone wanted Air Jordans.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're still around and going for a fortune.
One 90s myth to debunk. Jordan was not cut by his high school basketball team. This myth blew up during the 90s title streak, but it's not true. It is true, however, that he was put on the JV team, which is probably a mistake, but whatever. Another 90s myth. The Taco Bell Chihuahua commercial stopped when the dog died. Remember the Yokero Taco Bell? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But they stopped when they realized the commercials were unbelievably annoying.
Oh, come on. This is not the point of commercial.
Yep. Chucky from Rugrats was based on the lead singer of Devo, Mark Mothersbaugh. You remember...
Devo?
Is it Devo? Sorry.
Devo.
Mark Mothersbaugh, he was also the composer for Rugrats. He did the music.
Nice.
Yeah, the Hubble Space Telescope launched in 1990. Wow. To get the sound for the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, the crew slowed down a recording of a Jack Russell Terrier playing with a rope. That's... Wow.
Talk about something you would never thought you would know.
No. Honey, quick, the dog's playing with the rope again. Slow that down. Get Steven Spielberg on the phone. Pepsi tested around 3,000 variations for Crystal Pepsi. Remember when Crystal Pepsi made a comeback a little while ago? Do you remember? It was huge in the 90s. Crystal Pepsi. Britney Spears' cousin played her love interest in the Baby One More Time music video.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious. In 1997, people sold Tickle Me Elmos online for the reasonable price of $1,500.
Oh, I remember that phrase.
Oh my God. 1997 holiday season. Wow. Tara Lipinski started out as a roller skater before she ever went on the ice, and she won the gold medal in the 98 Olympics. I didn't watch the Olympics that much back in the 90s. I don't know if you did.
I didn't really, but for those of you that do not know, the 96 Olympics were in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's what that movie Richard Jewell is based about, the 96 bombing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The Matrix came out in 1999. That was the kind of another end of the 90s thing.
Great movie.
Excellent movie.
I just saw it for the first time recently.
Yep. Psychic Uri Geller sued Pokemon. He believed that the character Kadabra, who could bend spoons with his mind, was based on him. That's interesting.
How do you plan to prove it?
I have no idea. Do you remember Bop It?
Yeah.
Bop it, pull it, twist it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was inspired by the game Simon and Whack-A-Mole. You can still buy it on Amazon. Interesting. Do you remember that workout thing, the Thigh Master?
Vaguely.
The Thigh Master. He also invented the mood rings. Remember you put that on your finger and it's supposed to tell your mood?
Yeah.
I don't know how that worked out. And looking back on that, you're like, wow, it says you're mad. Look at that! It turned purple. You must be angry.
Okay.
80 members of the crew for the movie Titanic got sick on the same day because someone spiked the lobster with PCP.
Alright. And like I said, renegade decade.
Yep. Nirvana released Nevermind and left Metallica gushing. Nirvana once received the following facts. And you know it's the 90s when you're talking about receiving a fax. We really dig Nirvana. Nevermind is the best album of the year. Let's get together soon. Love Metallica. P.S. Lars hates the band.
That's so Lars.
Yeah. The first Google server, the storage rack for the first Google server was made out of Legos.
Yeah.
Now the company makes over $100 billion a year.
Wow.
Doug Funny, remember Doug Funny from Doug?
Yeah.
That's another one we forgot. Doug.
Doug.
Originated in Florida grapefruit juice commercials. Didn't know that either.
Really?
Nope.
Wow.
Have no idea. Remember the Macarena?
Yep.
Hey Macarena.
Annoying. I almost swore, but I will.
Hey, Hermione Granger's last name was almost Puckle.
Thank God it wasn't Hermione Puckle.
Sorry. I'd like you to meet my friend, Hermione Puckle. That was a horrible British accent. Hey, Puckle, we can't help but notice that your initials are also HP. My God.
Thank you, J.K. Rowling.
The Coca-Cola Company released Surge to compete with Mountain Dew. And guess which one you don't hear of anymore? Surge. Oh, that's funny. Wow. Mike Myers got the inspiration for Austin Powers after hearing the Dusty Springfield song "The Look of Love." I actually never saw Austin Powers. You?
I just saw it not too long ago.
Destiny's Child was originally called Girls' Time. Time was spelled Tyme.
Oh God!
They came out February '98. That
Thank
album.
God they changed.
I just think of the Girls' Room. The Girls' Room.
Beyonce.
Oh man. The most remembered slogan in beverage history, and they just announced it's actually making a comeback. Do you remember Gut Milk?
Oh, who doesn't remember Gut Milk?
Do you remember who directed the first Gut Milk commercial?
No.
Michael Bay, the director of Transformers.
What?
I'm surprised the milk didn't explode. Will Smith knew that people would call him by his Fresh Prince of Bel-Air character name for the rest of his life, so he named the character Will Smith.
Oh,
Genius!
Genius?
They're going to remember this character for the rest of their lives, and they're going to call me that name. Will Smith.
Will Smith.
That's your name. Exactly. I'm a genius. Wow. 1991's My Girl made Macaulay Culkin the first child actor to be paid $1 million for a film, and just a year later he made $4.5 million in Home Alone 2.
It'd be nice to be him.
Listen, I make $4.5 million every week working in retail. You don't? I'm just kidding. How about this? Get this. While the Nintendo 64 was in development, its code name was Project Reality. Its proposed final name was Ultra 64. Oh, that's kind of cool, though. I would have liked them either way.
Yeah.
The new Ultra 64
Yeah.
from Nintendo. That's cool. Back in 97, a band called Kara's Flowers performed on Beverly Hills 90210. Kara's Flowers went on to be called Maroon 5.
Wow! Oh, thank God you've changed the album Ravine.
Kara's Flowers, yes, but you didn't play Sweet Victory at the Super Bowl, so I'm still mad at you.
Yeah.
Yep. Simon Cowell's biggest regret was not signing the Spice Girls. Someone else signed them. Wow. Okay. Tamagotchi comes from the Japanese words for egg and friend. And they are shaped like an egg. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And how about this one? The ultimate 90s fact. The United States spent around $100 billion to prepare for Y2K. Do you remember the craze that was going on?
Oh, like the world,
The world's going to end. It's turning it's going to be 2000.
2000. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, everything's fine. Don't worry. They were worried that the clocks wouldn't be able to tell the new time because everything was set to, nothing was reset to go to 2000, but everything worked out just fine.
And fun wrestling that Chris Jericho is Y2J. That's a play on Y2J.
And is that something he got like when the early 2000s? I bet, right? I don't know how long has he been around. Was he around in the 90s? Jericho?
Yeah, he was.
He was.
Been
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Around for over 30 years.
30 years, wow. Do you remember anything? Oh, and that wasn't all the facts. Those were the really interesting ones. 90s fashion wasn't really something I like. It's interesting. Like we can talk about fashion, but for me, you just
the hat.
Yeah, well, like when you're in the 90s, you're just wearing clothes. You're not thinking like this is 90s fashion until you look back and realize, wow, tacky. That shirt is tacky. That hat is horribly tacky.
Yeah.
Like it's like people looking back in the 80s and looking at the hairspray they used.
I was gonna say that, like that 80s hair.
Yeah. We're going to look at our fashion in 2020 and be like, wow, that was tacky probably, even though now to us it's just clothes.
It's funny if I could tell a quick story.
Please do.
At my senior prom, when they voted for prom king and queen, they gave us all like necklaces with a big clock attached to it, and that was like
Oh my god, I remember those.
flavor
Yes.
thing.
Yep.
And I felt like I was in the 90s wearing one of those things.
How tacky could I possibly be? You got a giant clock around your neck.
Yeah,
Like everyone in the world knows what time it is now
yeah.
because you're wearing that clock. You know, I feel like 90s, like that fashion sense, that style was more for people like who are older, who are more aware of like what they're wearing.
Yeah.
But like when you're our age and your parents are helping you get dressed and whatever, you're not really thinking about that stuff.
It's making a comeback too, I think.
Yeah, the 90s is huge, but like the only thing I'll say about the fashion is the art palette and style of the 90s was like the colors, the triangles, the swirls, the weird
Yup.
shapes.
Yeah.
Like that whole pattern scheme that was like Saved by the Bell, Boy Meets World, really brightly colored like
another
shirts.
show we haven't mentioned, boy.
Oh yeah, and of course Full House, the sitcom to end all sitcoms. I love Full House. But yeah, you know, fashion is just something that you don't think about until years later when you look back and you're like, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
Horrible. What about nostalgia? What triggers 90s nostalgia for you? Like when you get that burst of nostalgia?
For me, more than anything, it's the music.
Yeah. Oh, it's the sounds. I know.
I would say video games, but the only way you get to see those is on YouTube, really, so you don't really see them that much.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's the music, because you can just get that anytime and put one song on and it takes you back to
That's it.
that time.
It's funny how the brain works. Like one of the biggest triggers is smells, sounds, and sights.
Yeah.
So like if I smell something, I'll smell something that would remind me of the smell of the video store that we used to go to.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'll be brought right back to Blockbuster. And it'll bring me back to a specific memory of getting a specific movie and a smell I was smelling, and my brain immediately connects it to the past.
Like, I remember where the Blockbuster used to be here in Johnston, and it's funny, obviously, not there anymore, but I still drive by the building where it was today, and I still remember, oh, that's where I used to go to Blockbuster.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it hasn't been
like years.
Blockbuster in like well over a
Where in
decade.
Johnson is this one?
If I wanna say Hartford Ave. Like
Oh yeah.
really close.
Yeah, if you're local, you know what Hartford Ave is. Yeah, but yeah, smell is huge. For me, it's like the sight of things, the color schemes, colors, the sound. Like I love Scooby Doo as a kid, so the theme song for music. Obviously, Nickelodeon's huge. So if you look at even the color of the orange, or if you hear like the Nick thing, or if you hear like a theme song for like Rugrats or Hey Arnold,
You were looking
you
at
know.
commercials from Nick like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we were looking at all those old commercials. I've been watching old commercials lately. They're really fascinating.
Through the years.
Yeah, how that changed from like back when they were pinwheeled all the way till now.
Yeah.
In the 90s, the commercials were the little bumpers were great. But nostalgia is so powerful. That's why nostalgia makes money. Star Wars wouldn't have made $1 billion if it wasn't for memories and nostalgia.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo, the new Scoob movie, or these things that come out that bank on your remembrance of things wouldn't make money unless people wanted to go back to the good old days.
And it's funny, like, every once in a while in the world of wrestling, they'll bring, like, Stone Cold on for a guest appearance on their show, and he still gets the biggest pop out of anyone on that show.
Yeah, because people remember him. Yeah, exactly.
Because people love seeing him and they remember him.
Yeah.
And,
you know, sometimes change is tough, so people go back to what's comfortable, or like, you know, especially in a time like this where people just want to feel comforted, you go back to the things that you remembered as a kid.
And I find myself doing it more and more recently, given the time that we're living in right now under the circumstances.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, look at it with Blue's Clues coming back for a new generation of kids, or old games coming back for a new generation to grow up with, to play with them, or people who grew up with it to get to play it again in a brand new way. You know, so nostalgia sells big time.
I know when those Tony Hawk remakes come out, you and me are gonna be all over that.
Oh yeah, the day it comes out, I'm getting that.
And we'll be transported right back into the 90s.
Right back into a time, where there was like, and today is awesome. You know, it's not like growing up and you know, there are so many amazing things, but there are always those memories that you carry with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you obviously can't go back, but
I'll always have those memories of growing up.
Yeah.
In that time period.
Yeah. And if you're not born in the 90s, you have memories of your own time. You know, mostly it's just the nostalgia factor that people find so
even
alluring.
Thing like Mr. Rogers'
Yep.
Neighborhood.
Bob Ross.
Yeah,
that the comforting stuff, you know what I mean?
So much.
Yeah, nostalgia's huge, and like memory's huge, and retaining a certain part of that and what they do today is exciting because you kind of get to relive it in certain ways.
And nostalgia's that one thing that will never go out of style.
Nope, and I think we talked about it before, but embrace the future, embrace the present. But enjoy what came before. Enjoy the good stuff. You know what I mean? Enjoy the 90s. The 90s are awesome. It was obviously there's bad things about every year and decade, but choose to look at the good. Remember it fondly and remember it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
I hope everyone enjoyed that. That was our 90s special.
I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get to do another special soon.
Thank you, everyone who's listened for 1 year of Audible Grown.
1 year? Yep. Wow.
I'm sure with episode 24, our 2-year anniversary, we'll do something else big. But look forward to more movie reviews when those movies start coming out, more game news, more pop culture news. Yep. We're going to, starting next episode, we're going back into the present. And we'll keep sharing news on Facebook. And I guess the perfect way to end that with coming out of the 90s is to talk about a 90s icon, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And we'll end. We'll come back to the present for just one thing, and that is the spectacular news. We've talked about it in the past, but Dwayne Johnson saved the XFL from bankruptcy.
Yes, at the 11th hour.
It was going up for auction in like 3 hours, and they just announced that Dwayne Johnson has bought the XFL. By the time you hear this, it'll be older news, so we're going to share this on our Facebook page. But it's going to be awesome to have football back.
Champ straight again.
Yes. If you were an XFL fan, you have a lot to look forward to, and we'll see by the time this podcast is recorded if there's any more news.
And keep the conversation going. Like on our social media, like don't be afraid to share any 90s memories you may have. We would love to like hear everyone's stories and
for sure
expand on the conversation that we had.
Yep. Let's talk 90s. We're ready for it. Well, guys, we hope you have a great night. Let's give a special shout out to 3 Geeky Gads. I got that so wrong. 3 Geek, not 3 Geeky Gads. Yeah, 3 Geeky Josh Gads. No, 3 Geeky Dads podcast, who has helped us out before. We're giving you a little shout out, so if you want to give us a shout out, we'd appreciate it.
Yes.
But go listen to their podcast. They're great. They're a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah. If you like movies, that's the podcast for you.
That's the one to listen to. All right, guys, we hope you have a great time. Have a great night. Thank you for listening to our 90s special, and we'll see you soon.
You next time.
Episode 13 of 13, right? It is 13.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, we're at 1:29:55. So goodbye in 3, 2, 1. Have a great night. See you later.
Peace.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and until next time, we hope you don't audibly groan.